Hello, welcome everybody to Ask a Puppy Trainer Show. I'm Bethany and I'm the only one here this week. Sparky actually had an emergency lesson to help another dog that's an adolescent with severe puppy biting. It can be a very challenging thing to have a puppy. So give me all the questions. Just put your comments down below and I'll prioritize you guys that showed up if you have any questions. This is episode 229. I do have a few. Oh, okay, so hang on, here we go. So I do have a few questions that were sent in that I'm gonna start with, and then if you guys have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll get to you. All right, I'm gonna start with Lisa. Lisa runs marathons. All right, I'm just wondering, all the advice I've read so far, when there is barking and crying in the crate, and I'm stuck at home, I'm supposed to wait for a moment of calm before I get them out. Are you saying that I can leave them if I know she's in her crate, she's calm, she's asleep, when I leave and come back 2 to 3 hours? She sleeps in crate 7 hours at night, not a peep. It's just during the day if I'm in the room, just trying to make sure that I'm understanding this, but not if I'm not. Okay, so the puppy is fine in crate when she's in the room. The puppy is not fine when she leaves the room during the day. We do not cover the door of the crate. I have white noise and I do have a radio. Thank you. Okay, well, Lisa, if you don't live in a hot climate, you could try, to cover all 4 sides. It's just certain times of the year we're really cautious about that because it can create, a really stuffy environment. And if that's the case, I actually recommend leaving the back flap open on the crate and then even having like a small fan or just some air movement, airflow through there. If we want to get really technical, if we're really struggling here and we have to be really specific, I would rather the front of the crate be covered and you open the back if you live in a warm climate. If you don't, like this time of year, it's actually nice and cool, try covering just all 4 sides and just, see how it feels. If you get hit with like must when you open, the front to let the dog out, and then you need to leave the back open. So that would be the first change I would make. Here's the thing about all the advice online is that all of it can work for some dog, in some situation. And sorry, I have a cough drop in my mouth. Hopefully you guys can't hear it on the microphone. But what I would say is that in general, yes, if my puppy starts whining and it's not like a potty whine, I've kind of learned that, I'm going to try to just ignore it and wait for the whining to go away and wait for that just few seconds of the puppy not whining before I go in. Now, if there's a whine and I do go into the room, I'm going to kind of muck around a little bit. And if the whining continues, what I'll do is not giving the puppy any attention, and I got to let it out soon. I'll just kind of hang out and wait and pause, not looking at the puppy. And they'll probably be quiet and stay there staring at me. So I'm going to hang out for a few minutes. Yeah, I might pull out my phone if you're bored and you can't just stand there. I can't do that anymore. All that impulse control has gone out the window with social media. So I pull out my phone and scroll for a minute and just see, if it kicks up again or if the puppy really does stay chill before I let him out. At least, my point is, at least do that. At least don't walk in the room to a whining puppy, and let them out of crate. At least hang out in the room for a few minutes, see if the puppy kind of escalates again and de-escalates so they can start to learn. But I will tell you, that's like the long road, and there's nothing wrong with the long road. It's very effective for a huge percentage of puppies. Some puppies, no matter what you do, they're still going to whine. They're not going to pick up on that. There's some genuine anxiety there when it comes from being separated from you. But most of the time, we just say, leave them in there. They'll get over it. They'll relax, and then they'll get better on their own by just kind of letting them be, and then letting them out calmly. That's the next phase I'm going to get to. But it just depends on the dog. A lot of times the anxiety, the temperament of the dog is very go, 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 or they're kind of prone to anxiety just genetically. or they are really struggling with the idea of crate or being alone, any combination of those things, you probably didn't do this, Lisa, but in general, you might have accidentally, just held your puppy most of the time for the first 3-4 days of owning them. And that is what really set them up to, okay, I can never be alone, It's not like a baby. And so, because you're not even getting them as a baby, right? You're getting them 8 to 10 weeks old. And so they've already kind of hit another phase, another transition of life where you've got to start to teach them to be a little bit independent. Okay, the other thing I would say is let's make sure you're letting them out of crate really slowly. This is what I would do with a puppy that is 10, 12 weeks and older. Under that, I might not put a leash on unless they were bolting out of crate. So what I want you to do is walk up to the crate, and you're going to just open it a couple of inches. And if they stick their little nose through, you're just going to shut it. We're not whacking the door on the dog's nose. I don't know enough about it. If that dog was really like pounding on the crate, pawing at the crate, extreme whining, 6 months old, then I might shut it firmly. But the little puppies, the really young ones, it's usually not necessary. We're just teaching them. We open it again, they stick through, shut it, open, until they back off. Once they back off, you do it a little wider. Be prepared to shut it again, but do it a little wider. And you'll have to shut it, right? And so as soon as they learn and then they back off, they don't have to sit because they probably don't know how in crate yet. We call it house. And so when you finally get them backing off and they're not pursuing a door that's opening, it's such an important boundary. You should be already doing that for your front door the moment they come home. But anyway, not to get into the weeds, once you get to that point where they're just backing off, then leash them up, and then they're going to want to come out again. And so you block again. You can use an arm, a leg, or the crate door is best in the beginning. Oh, you have a call.
It's supposed to be on sleep.
Sorry guys, hang on. I don't know what happens if you have a... Sorry about that. Hi. So, pause to do the poor connection. Hang on just a second. Sorry. TikTok, we don't ever have any issues with you with connection. It's always Instagram. Sorry about that, guys. So anyway, you will go through that whole process, get a leash on them, do it again. So now the leash doesn't mean to fly out either. And I do this with a 10-week-old puppy. Like, it's something to be done right away. And then I'm going to say, let's go. Now, if it's first thing in the morning, I might pick them up and take them outside to potty, but that would be the only potty during the day, that first morning potty that I would do that. The rest of the time throughout the day, I am going to have them wait. I'm going to say, let's go, or come. You can just come if you want. And if they bolt out and you're having trouble with whining and creates a little bit of minor anxiety, you're going to turn around and you have food on you. Always have food on you when your puppies come out of crate, guys. It should be leash and food on you. Should just be the general consensus, like that's just what you do every single time. And so you can pull out a piece of food, turn around, house, have them go right back in. Breathe in, breathe out, pause again, invite them out again. They bolt, turn around, go back in. Wait till they still be happy, of course, but they kind of more walk out of crate, or at least excitedly walk rather than the bolt. Like never allow the bolt. Even if I was to go to my front door and my puppy is excited for their walk and I open the door and they wait nicely for food because I've been shaping that. But then I say, let's go, and they out the door, turn around, go back in. Really drill these calmer thresholds, guys. You set the tone for the type of energy you want your puppy to associate with these transitions. And doors opening are one of the most dangerous transitions for a dog to blow through. And so we start doing that right away. We can't set boundaries like the mama sets boundaries, or should be setting boundaries. We can't do that. We're not a dog, okay? We're not biting at them. We're not growling at them, despite how many trainers out there will say growl at your dog. We don't do that. I mean, it's fine. You do you guys. But we don't do that. And if you really start early on these transitions and put in the extra 2 minutes it takes, it'll be less and less. It might start with 5 minutes and then it'll be less and less. Then, just so you know, we can't hear you. That's what TikTok is saying. Oh, look, his thing's not on.
Stop.
Sorry, guys. Just a second. Thank you for that.
Can you hear now?
Can you hear us now?
TikTok.
TikTok, can you hear us now? This is on and working. Can you turn that back on? Is it a battery thing?
It might be. This one's Josh's, so.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
The battery's
Oh, the battery is dead. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. There we go. We can now. Great. So when this is re-uploaded, you guys can catch the beginning spiel if you're interested in learning how to work on your dog's mental state in crate. And we had another question about more severe, I think, separation anxiety as well from Alyssa. So I'm just going to kind of tie all of this into that. Okay, so that's what you're working on, is really focusing on those transitions, even from a really young puppy. I have a very, if my puppy's struggling in crate, I have a very matter-of-fact demeanor, a very like neutral, authoritative demeanor. Because when you're working with a puppy that has any anxiety issues that you're seeing, all you're thinking is calm confidence when you're working with your puppy. And even when you're petting your puppy, you don't pet excitement. Not if you're struggling with crates. Okay, you got to be really specific with even how you are looking at their energy, nurturing their energy, rewarding their energy. If they're coming at you and they're kind of a little like, yay, mom, when they come out of crate and you go outside and you potty and then you pet them and you think that that's separate from crate, it's not. It is not separate from crate. They are still in the zone of that emotional feeling. That's why that patterning of let's go, house, pause, maybe closed door, open door again, pause, breathe in, out, let's go. Really focusing on helping your dog through those transitions is going to make all the difference. And then maybe you can go outside and you have a nice, calm, chill dog. You can work with that puppy for a few minutes and then give the puppy affection if they're not jumping all over you, running amok. Like you get what you pet. So whatever you want to see more of, that's what you should pet. Okay? There are some exceptions to the get what you pet, but in general, it is a really good, way of thinking about what you're rewarding. If you're seeing like Alyssa, sounds like she's having some there's no specifics because it's a short prompt, whenever you message us. Sounds like she might be having worse separation anxiety issues. And if that's the case, Alyssa, I know it's a pain in the butt, but what I would suggest is being really strict the first 15 minutes before you put your puppy back in crate, and the first 15 minutes that they come out of crate, you really maintain that matter of fact, you're just doing business. It's like a transaction. Wait, let's go, house, you're pausing at the door, sit, good. You're really not feeding into anything, and you're staying very neutral, and there's absolutely no affection. And just think of it as a business transaction. And so that's really, really important. And then the other thing, when it comes to this, is how you are during the day, is just the permissiveness of how often do you pet your dog every time they come into your space. I know they're a cute little puppy, but you potentially, not all dogs, not all puppies, respond this way, but a lot of them do. They start to struggle if you're constantly rewarding that and you're being really permissive every time they come up to you and look at you with those cute eyes and you're constantly giving attention. They think the world revolves around them and they start to have a lot of behavioral issues as a result. And it can range from worse separation anxiety to reactivity to you not being able to influence their decisions at all because you have no believability. There's just a wide range of issues that can come from that. It's not every puppy, but I just want you guys to kind of keep that in mind. and I just want to throw out there, we have our online school, and our online school is designed specifically for us to deep dive into specific issues with our clients there. We do, once a week, we do a Zoom where we can really break down what it is, what's happening with your puppy during the day and really help you step by step, and even do video training live right then and there if needed. So just keep that in mind. We do provide that with our online school. We have a question on TikTok. Can you?
It says, my puppy wants to eat everything in the garden. Stones, grass, weeds, flowers. How do we stop this?
Okay, well that will really depend on the age of your puppy. The advice that I would give would really depend on the age of your puppy. How I would start is how good is your puppy on a leash in the house? Meaning, can you hold the leash and do let's go work and come, sit, stay, all of that with food in the house, and building that focus and building that relationship with you, with food, with the leash, all of those things. The biggest mistake I see people make is they only put a leash on when they're outside, and they're struggling with handling, their dog is struggling with focus, and then they're 8 months old and out of control. So if your puppy is on the younger side, that's what I would say for that is the foundation that you have to lay. Now, to target what you're saying exactly, like to be specific, because I don't want to leave you hanging, there's a few things I would do. First of all, if your puppy is under 5 months old, under 6.
11 weeks, and we've only had him just over a week.
Okay. That's a young puppy to be that, rocks and things like that. It's a young puppy to be that into it. And so, okay, it's a little tricky. I say it's a little tricky just because it's easier if they're a little older, actually. So, but you're going to have an OCD issue, obsessive compulsive issue. I've seen it before with rocks and have stomachs cut open full of rocks. Or guarding, not wanting to drop things if you have such a young puppy that's so driven to do this. So what I would do is really work on that relationship inside. Make sure you're stopping at all the thresholds. I just went over all the thresholds with the crate, but it's also just how we teach boundaries. Again, we can't be the mama. We're not growling. We're not doing these things with our dogs. And so one of the ways that we help build focus and impulse control is through thresholds. So I just went through all that. Now, with this specifically, with the rocks for an 11-week-old, gosh, I would honestly, it's kind of like the advice that I got with my toddler, which I really, really loved and appreciated. I should have known with the puppy training, but it's the same thing. When they are under 2, their reasoning skills are non-existent. They're just reacting. And that's a lot like a puppy. They are just instinctually reacting to their genetics and what's going on around them. And so the advice I got was set up your main space with your kid in a way where you don't have to tell them no. Because the last thing you want to be doing all day is telling your 1.5-year-old no. It just builds a lot of frustration and temper tantrums and things like that. You need to have a puppy or puppy proof. We say puppy proofing, but in this case it was a child proof area. We say puppy proofing all the time. And it gets really awkward when it's like, oh, in the yard, we also have to puppy proof? Yes. I had, again, that's why I don't know if you have kids, if that's a good, mental shift for you, but I had to do the same thing for my little girl. There were areas of my yard that were not safe for her, and I can't be staring at her all the time. So we had a choice. We put a pin around her, which I actually did for about a month. When I would go outside, I put a pin around her when I would take the dogs out to potty till I could get the yard set up, where there was a section of the yard I could put her, and it would be as safe as it could be, right? And that's what I'm telling to you. If you have a rock garden in your backyard, is there an area where you can keep your puppy, because they should be on leash when you're doing the potty training, where you don't go into the rocks? Like, stop giving your puppy opportunities to pick up things that are dangerous for them. You've got to see if you can do better puppy proofing. Sparky has even said before, I don't know if you've been on here before, but he's my partner in crime on here. He's usually here. He's given the advice, and I totally agree. I would look into getting fake turf to just, you don't have to make a big deal about it. Just throw it over your rocks short term until your dog gets a little bit more maturity and you can work on this. So much of this is preventative. And then if your dog picks up a leaf, no big deal. Let him eat the leaf. If your dog picks up a stick and you don't want him to have the stick, that's where the training kicks in. So you got your puppy on the leash and you've been working in the house. Let's go, come, sit, piece of food trumps stick, and then you can start working on those boundaries. Once your puppy, starts to have a better understanding of those boundaries, you've taught a valuable no, you get in 5-month, 6-month, 7-month, you can switch to a tool where you have head control. That would be one of my suggestions. And then you could try something like a pet corrector, which squirts out air, to just be like, no, you squirt, it just goes, it makes like a sudden noise. Like, no, you do not pick up rocks. Then you could do something like that. but I would not do that right now. For a lot of reasons. I don't want to spend a lot of time going into why, but you need a foundation first, and you need to, just like with my little girl, prevent the frustration and the anxiety that comes from no, pulling things out of her mouth. That, having to do that constantly, it creates a bad scenario between the two of you. And so you really want to set up your day with your puppy where you are limiting those no's as much as possible, because the dog is still practicing bad behavior and you're just behind it, managing it, right? So you got to get in front of that. And then if you do see something on the ground, the dog is on leash, and you can prevent it, then that's your recall work. That's your training. Food that you've been doing. I would definitely suggest you kind of look into our online school if you feel really lost by what I said, because everything's very organized for you in there. You might just need a program. So, okay. Heather on Instagram says, 12-week-old male Shih Tzu, so Shih Tzu poodle mix, great in the crate, sleeps through the night 2 to 3 hours, holding it during the day. Is there a typical age that they ask to go outside? Taking out a lot, occasional accidents. Yeah, 12 weeks old, small breed dog, you're going to be taking out a lot for a long time. And then in my experience, when they get elderly, it starts all over again, where you're taking them out as if they were puppies again. Small breed dogs, it's a thing for them. So what I would say is, for the whole thing of them letting you know to go out, some dogs will naturally start to just give you these cues. So when your dog is having their out time, where they're hopefully like tethered to you or dragging around a leash, like it's still supervised, and you've gotten to the point where you can do that. Your puppy is too young for that right now, but when they get to where they can, I hear all the time, they start going to the back door, and then I let them out, and then a month later, they start having accidents like crazy. And that's usually because you start relying on them telling you too much. I hear that all the time. So I want to prevent that from happening to you. And in my opinion, just get that idea out of your head. Don't even think about it right now. Stick to your schedule. Teach really good impulse control as far as holding, the potty and being on a schedule. And then as your puppy gets older, 6, to 10 months old, and they start to just get more freedom, you're still on a schedule. And then if you start to see any signs happen naturally, they'll tell you, and sometimes they don't. All my dogs are older now. My German Shepherd is really the only one that will come to me if she needs to go out. The other dogs have different cues, but it's always like, oh my God, I gotta go. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's just staring at me. And then if I start to get up, she'll spin. And I'm like, oh, that's a potty. I don't know. Maybe it's just my way. But to me, that means like she's barely holding it together. And that's not when I want to take my dogs out. I don't want them to wait till the absolute last second and they're at the back door anxiously waiting, hoping I notice. I just don't love that in general. And so I keep my dogs on a schedule forever. Like I just know that if they are put up and away, they're good for 4 to 5 hours, no problem. If they are out with me, with the family, or around any stimulus, I take them out every 3 to 4, just depending if they've had water. I'm like, definitely 3. I just have all these things in my head that have become routine over the years. That's my preference. If you are someone, though, that is like, no, I want to teach my dog to give me a cue, you can absolutely do that. Check out Potty Training with the Bell on YouTube, and I would watch like 5 videos on that. We just suggest that people don't do that method until they are more around like the 8, 9, 10 months old. And that way it's you teach it as a trick, and then you start to associate it with going out. That way the potty training is fully secure, and you're much less likely to have fallout when you start to rely on the bell. That would be my suggestion there for you. So hopefully that made sense. So sorry of my big, long personal spiel. I don't have short answers, especially if Sparky's not here to like interrupt me and then I have to keep him on track. Then I'm like, good, but otherwise I'm terrible at it. Okay, let me see if I've got anything else on here. No. And I'm just gonna scroll, on TikTok and see if I thought there was something else. You wanna look?
Earlier,
Because we could do one more.
thank you. And then, what about Instagram popped up?
Oh, yay.
Can we go Goldendoodle?
Okay. All right. Michael says, 10-week Goldendoodle. How long do we keep the safe spaces before we start to let them wander and just be in the home? Okay. Safe spaces. So I'm going to assume safe spaces, what you mean by that I was talking about earlier, like puppy proofing, like the same, you might do for a baby or toddler. That's really dependent on the dog. I went over this last week, I think, in more detail, but I'll try to give you the quick version, which is just you might have a German Shepherd or a little terrier Jack Russell mix or something that is really driven, really gung-ho, and every time they're out of crate, they are looking for something to do. And sometimes those temperament, it's not always breeds, but some breeds are more prone to it. Sometimes those temperament of dogs, it might be 1.5 years, 2 years before you're even trying to shape any out time that's not in a barrier type space, like locked off in the kitchen or a playpen or tethered to you on leash. It really can be that long. It also depends on your methodology for training. If you are going the hardcore positive reinforcement route and you do have one of these challenging dogs, it's going to be much more management for a longer period of time. Nothing wrong with that. You just have to kind of know that that's what you're in for. If you focus a lot of time and energy into teaching your puppy how to be calm when they're out with the family on leash, like it's not their supervised separation where they're in their designated puppy proof area, but they're actually with you with the family, but they're on leash, and you're helping to teach them how to be calm regularly through the day, or at least once a day, and that's what one of the things that you're really focusing on, you'll get it a lot faster with any breed or temperament. And then we've got at least one golden retriever here that is a slug and is 4 or 5 months old and is already spending an hour, just kind of follows the kids and then needs a nap just from walking around the house with the kids and a 5-minute training session, So, and that might change over adolescence. He's likely to get a kick of energy and start chewing on stuff, and then they have to go back to more structure. But my point is just so many things factor in your approach. Is your energy softer than your dog's? How much freedom is your dog already getting before you stuck to a schedule? What's the temperament of the dog? There's so many things that factor in. So I'm sorry I can't give you a clear-cut answer, but at least that kind of helps you know that this is not, something that you can just grab any advice from and it should apply to your dog. It's just not the case. Okay. Heather says, we've noticed some signs of smelling the floor, losing interest in toys, and just walking around more. Thank you. Right. So, but those aren't signs that she's giving you of like, hey, Mom, I got to go potty. Those are more just signs that she's got to go potty and you better be quick or she's going to have an accident. I would not wait for those. I thought you meant more signs of like, how to teach your dog to go to the back door and that, or come to you and stare at you creepily like my German Shepherd does if I've missed my window with her. That's why I thought you meant, or the bell, something like that. This kind of signs you're talking about are really just natural signs that dogs give that you do need to pay attention to, but don't wait for. Because if you wait for these signs, you will miss some of them and you'll have more accidents. So anyway, all right, guys. I just lost my person that's supposed to turn you guys off. Oh, there she comes back. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you with Sparky, same time, same place next week.